Even while she breathed, people called this monarch the rotting queen. Court scribes documented how her final years brought such overwhelming stench that nobles collapsed unconscious in royal chambers. Yet the most chilling truth lies in how these cursed omens emerged during her earliest days. This tale reveals how sickness and anguish transformed England's Mary Tudor into an emblem of decay and bloodshed. We will explore how shame defined her youth, how phantom motherhood became malignant growth, how terror of her own flesh merged with Inquisition flames, and why her passing carried such putrid odor that even adversaries recorded it. The most shocking revelation awaits at our conclusion, detailing how living decomposition nearly obliterated an entire royal line. Mary entered existence within a household where bloodlines and authority tangled with scheming machinations. Henry VIII fathered her, a sovereign remembered both as revolutionary and the man who severed his daughter's natural destiny. Catherine of Aragon bore her, serving as Henry's initial spouse. When their union crumbled, Mary instantly became legally forbidden. Her father officially branded her illegitimate offspring. For this princess, such designation transcended mere insult. It became permanent marking, signifying degradation before complete court and nation. Status, privileges, and dignity vanished. She transformed into unofficial daughter. Despite carrying direct royal heritage through blood, Mary's early years unfolded amid relentless controversies and public humiliation. Courtiers regarded her with disdain. Her prospects faced open revulsion, as though she existed not as human being, but mere political instrument. Her adolescence lived under the shadow of bodily betrayal. Something inside was fracturing, abandoning her precisely when she desperately needed to demonstrate virtue and fertility potential. Mary existed within suffocating dread and isolation. Her mother faced disgrace and banishment. Her father openly favored fresh wives and offspring from different marriages. In palace conspiracies, she remained expendable chess piece, icily discarded. These conditions rendered her upbringing beyond merely challenging, truly damned. Through such circumstances emerged the character destined for infamy as Bloody Mary. Even during youth, destiny marked her with separation, affliction, and animosity. These elements would construct the foundation for horrific choices awaiting her reign. Mary, bearing bastard status since earliest memory, finally encountered fortune offering vindication opportunity. By 1553, she claimed England's throne. This represented far more than political advancement. It signified victory against decades of degradation. Yet upon seizing power, the most tragic phase commenced, later chronicled by witnesses as carrying death itself. Immediately following coronation, entire court and populace anticipated the essential outcome: legitimate succession. For 16th century rulers, childlessness meant beyond personal catastrophe, dynastic extinction threat. For Mary specifically, it offered cleansing from defective reputation, while proving divine favor remained. During 1554, she publicly declared her condition. Court celebration exploded. Her abdomen expanded visibly. Royal physicians verified symptoms. London prepared magnificent festivities. Discussions centered on baptism ceremonies and future matrimonial arrangements. Citizens awaited this heir who would cement Catholic authority and halt religious upheaval. However, within her anatomy, something entirely sinister was developing. Rather than infant life, malignant growth consumed her womb. Contemporary medical analysis suggests ovarian cysts, uterine masses, or aggressive cancer. During that era, nobody could comprehend why royal gestation defied natural progression. Whispered speculations spread like wildfire throughout the realm. Historical records preserve disturbing observations. Despite her swelling abdomen, Mary displayed alarming sickness indicators. Her complexion turned ghastly pale, respiration grew labored, and her flesh began radiating repulsive emanations. Courtiers feared, even hushed conversations about unfolding events, yet privately muttered haunting words. The sovereign bears death within, not precious life. As months elapsed without delivery, terror transformed into bewilderment. Physicians initially rationalized delays, insisting timing remained premature. Yet her belly expanded relentlessly. Her physical state deteriorated dramatically, making obvious that life was not flourishing inside her body. This was organic decay, Period witnesses recorded unbearable conditions in royal quarters. Even burning incense and sacred frankincense proved powerless against overwhelming putrid atmosphere. For 16th century minds, decomposition scents symbolized moral corruption and celestial retribution. Subjects began murmuring ominous prophecies. Divine wrath punished her savage brutality, transforming the royal womb into burial chamber. This revelation struck with such devastating force that even inner circle members, thoroughly familiar with palace mysteries, could not conceal their revulsion. Historical sources describe intimate attendants, literally turning away their faces to avoid sharing contaminated air with her presence. Yet none possess courage for open acknowledgement. Terror of Mary's execution fires exceeded any physical disgust. Eventually, the pregnancy received official dismissal as elaborate deception. The mental devastation proved catastrophic. Mary, who spent her entire existence yearning to demonstrate value through motherhood, discovered her anatomy had utterly abandoned her. Rather than surrender, she plunged deeper into zealous devotion and savage brutality. Disease became her primary weapon. If her own flesh was rotting internally, then surrounding reality must ignite in hellish flames. Therefore, the phantom pregnancy tragedy marked the pivotal transformation of her sovereignty. This putrid affliction birthed a terror-based regime. Alongside emerged fresh waves of executions, pyres, and carnage that would define English chronicles, cementing the identity we recognize now: Bloody Mary. This reproductive catastrophe transcended personal heartbreak for Mary. It threatened her entire political foundation. She understood that without producing succession, her kingdom would crumble. Consequently, maintaining power required abandoning popular affection for widespread intimidation. As whispers regarding her decomposing womb circulated, courtiers interpreted her condition as celestial condemnation. Even former devotees now averted their gazes with visible discomfort. Under these circumstances, Mary chose ruthless action. She could not command respect, but she could instill absolute terror. This moment triggered the persecution campaign that secured her infamous designation. She channeled complete fanatical conviction against Protestant communities. Within her tortured mind, religious faith and royal authority became sole defenses against illness rumors. As bodily decay accelerated, her demands for enemy immolation intensified correspondingly. Historical documentation reveals over 280 individuals perished during her brief reign. These were not clandestine eliminations. Instead, executions became elaborate public entertainment. Citizens gathered in town squares while flames devoured those Mary-branded heretics. Eyewitnesses recorded scenes that struck citizens as deeply prophetic. While Protestant bodies burned across public squares, the sovereign herself endured consuming internal flames. They branded her the woman ablaze from within. Citizens began linking her affliction with governmental tyranny. Popular sentiment declared the queen was simultaneously strangling the nation while perishing from inner conflagration. Her intimate circle documented increasing difficulty remaining near her presence. Her exhalations reeked of putrefaction. Her flesh displayed spreading blemishes and festering wounds. She occupied the throne while overwhelming stench surrounded her, impossible to mask, despite abundant incense and perfumes. Courtiers attempted maintaining distance, yet dared not reveal obvious revulsion. The smallest display of disrespect guaranteed execution by burning. For ordinary subjects, this represented genuine nightmare. 16th century minds perceived odors and illness through mystical lens. Citizens believed putrid smells heralded approaching mortality or demonic marking. The monarch emanating such emanations became living death reminder. Some feared her as divine instrument, others as breathing malediction. Yet precisely this terror enabled Mary to preserve authority. As rumors regarding her decomposing anatomy spread wider, she demanded escalating bloodshed. Through her perspective, only purification via flames could silence shameful accusations. Every incinerated victim represented symbolic response to fertility and health allegations. Period observers noted striking contradiction. The ruler who slowly, agonizingly expired, transformed death into public theater. She displayed bonfires as openly as her own anatomy revealed decay symptoms. This transcended governance, becoming fear-based cult where disease and extremism merged into a unified weapon. As physical condition deteriorated further, her viciousness intensified correspondingly. Yet these measures proved futile. Palace staff murmured haunting observations. Putrid emanations permeated every corridor, contaminating the entire royal atmosphere. As increasingly vile odors escaped the sovereign, execution pyres blazed more intensely across town squares. Therefore, persecution, flames, and affliction became unified horror. Mary transformed England into a realm where decomposition, stench, and burning smoke created inseparable nightmare. Citizens witnessed power founded not upon vitality, but upon mortality. This reflected the monarch's own internal corruption perfectly. While England's fires burned with escalating ferocity, the Queen herself embodied dying symbolism. Where her condition once hid behind pregnancy hopes or zealous religious facade, now her anatomy refused obedience completely. It began literally disintegrating during her living years. Contemporary accounts preserve descriptions that horrify modern readers. Mary developed festering sores physicians termed rotting wounds. These emitted such overwhelming putridness that even costliest incense proved powerless against the assault. The cruel irony emerged. A sovereign occupying the throne should represent national magnificence. Yet instead, her presence became decay incarnate. Household staff documented how her garments absorbed revolting odors within mere hours. Even heavy textiles saturated with oils and fragrances could not suppress the cadaverous reek. For courtiers, proximity became a grueling endurance test. Nobody dared abandon the chamber or avert their gaze. Terror of her savage brutality exceeded physical disgust entirely. Historical chronicles reveal Mary could no longer conceal bodily torment. She barely managed walking. Her movements grew labored and agonizing. Every footstep brought visible suffering. Internal hemorrhaging drained her strength progressively. Malignant growths distorted her physical form grotesquely. Most horrifying, this unfolded publicly before court and citizenry. For 16th century society, the spectacle carried profound symbolic weight. The sovereign, destined to nurture the nation, had transformed into putrefaction embodiment. Citizens believed divine malediction was destroying her anatomy internally. Terror of this exceeded even execution pyre dread. While flames consumed others, her affliction devoured her personally. Historical scribes documented the sickly sweet mortality reek radiating from her flesh. This terminology sounds particularly spine-chilling. The odor transcended mere revulsion, becoming cloying and nauseating. Period witnesses described how chamber incense only amplified the sensation that death literally saturated the atmosphere. Household staff feared physical contact with her form. They believed festering wounds carried contagion. Though disease transmission remained unknown then, servants performed obligations while minimizing touch. Reports suggest some attendants secretly discarded garments and linens to avoid retaining stench-soaked materials. This represented silent uprising against the horror their monarch emanated. Her inner circle hesitated, voicing concerns aloud, yet private correspondence contained subtle implications. Her anatomy was decomposing before actual death arrived. For courtiers, this transcended shocking display, becoming political catastrophe. The ruler meant to symbolize national strength became weakness incarnate. Nevertheless, Mary's authority endured. She continued occupying throne, authorizing documents, ordering fresh executions. This made the nightmare even more terrifying. On one hand, a woman barely capable of rising from her seat, radiating death's essence. On the other, an iron fist dispatching hundreds into flames. Word of her condition spread across Europe. Foreign ambassadors informed their governments that England's queen was experiencing living death. For her subjects, Mary embodied the walking deceased. Citizens believed divine retribution had already claimed her. Yet while breath remained, she would exact vengeance. In common imagination, her anatomy and execution flames formed singular malediction. She burned internally while incinerating others externally. Most dreadful was the disease's relentless progression. Every passing month delivered fresh ulcers, additional hemorrhaging, intensified speculation. Historical records documented her flesh turning ashen, blackening in sections. The putrid emanations grew increasingly powerful. Witnesses claimed she decomposed before expiring. All this transpired within suffocating silence. nobody possessed courage to speak truth. Any utterance could trigger execution. Therefore, the court endured nightmarish tableau. Oppressive, quiet, choking stench, and the sovereign slowly becoming cadaver before everyone's witness. As her final moments approached, terror intensified exponentially. Undesired proximity, yet all faced compulsory obedience. Servants struggled breathing, but maintained positions. Counselors grimaced while pledging loyalty. England existed within putrefaction and dread atmosphere. When circumstances seemed impossible to worsen, the ultimate phase arrived. Death itself. The conclusion brought no relief, merely horror's continuation. Even Mary's lifeless form radiated such overwhelming reek that her casket required immediate sealing. By her 1558 demise, Mary Tudor had ceased being a complete human being. She had transformed into symbolism, embodying agony, decay, and terror. Her final weeks proved unbearable, even for those who had endured years witnessing her deterioration. The woman who sought proving worth through motherhood instead became England's most haunting reminder of mortality's cruel power. Her anatomy deteriorated at shocking velocity, transforming the royal residence into a collective torment chamber. Historical scribes documented her quarters became saturated with unbearable putrid emanations. Even household staff accustomed to sickness and mortality choked from the overwhelming reek. Garments required multiple daily replacements. Bedding was discarded repeatedly, yet nothing provided relief. The very atmosphere became infected with her affliction. During these final days, she remained essentially isolated. Numerous trusted advisors avoided responsibilities through fabricated excuses. Even most devoted attendants sought opportunities delegating duties elsewhere. Only a handful remained at her deathbed, later confessing they battled continuous nausea throughout their vigil. Contemporary accounts recorded horrifying reality. Decomposition accelerated before actual death arrived. Following her expiration, the process intensified dramatically. Her corpse began rotting so rapidly that within hours the stench became completely intolerable. Chronicles stated bluntly, "The sovereign putrefied during existence and utterly decomposed upon dying." Her casket demanded immediate sealing. Royal tradition required displaying the monarch's remains for public farewell, yet Mary's case made this impossible. The overwhelming odor proved so powerful that despite abundant candles and incense, citizens could not approach. Death's emanation from the Queen transformed mourning into anguish. The populace exhaled relief collectively. Her demise was perceived not as national tragedy, but as liberation. For countless subjects, divine punishment had concluded naturally, street whispers declared. Finally, England escapes this malediction. Her illness and putrid presence bred living hatred, while death cemented that legacy permanently. Yet alongside relief emerged fresh terror. Folklore claimed even after burial, the stench lingered within palace walls. Public speculation amplified these disturbing effects significantly. Citizens believed her malediction persisted beyond death. The moniker Bloody Mary transcended mere mockery, becoming an entire epoch's defining symbol. One side featured execution pyres consuming hundreds of victims. The opposite displayed her own anatomy, transformed into breathing divine punishment. These twin horrors intertwined completely, with populace perceiving no distinction between her governance and affliction. Academic scholars observed striking contradiction. A woman desperately craving dynastic continuation became sterility's ultimate embodiment. She fantasized bearing male heir to fortify a royal bloodline, yet instead bequeathed putrefaction odors and sanguine memories. Her womb never generated existence, only mortality and decomposition. Her demise fundamentally altered English monarchical perception permanently. Following Mary's reign, subjects remained suspicious of any sovereign displaying fanatical or brutal tendencies. She established precedent of ruler who simultaneously governed while visibly rotting before citizen witness. One haunting theme became embedded within national folklore. Countless individuals claimed that years following her burial, palace corridors still emanated sickly sweet stench. This imagery elevated her to nearly mythological status within 16th century England. She transcended mere historical personage, becoming symbolic representation of terror, putrefaction, and reminder that authority can literally reek of death. Even in contemporary times, her identity evokes spine-tingling dread. Her legacy connects not with political achievements or institutional reforms, but with bodily horror she radiated. When people utter Bloody Mary, they contemplate not only mass executions, but living organisms' decomposition process. No other English queen in recorded history experienced death so revolting, yet symbolically profound. Thus concluded existence of woman seeking lasting legacy, who delivered only overwhelming stench.